Lena Harris strides out of an Atlanta bookstore, a rare legal text tucked under her arm, unaware that in seconds, 2 cops will slam her against a squad car, accusing her of theft. Handcuffs snap tight, drawing gasps from a stunned crowd, phones capturing every moment. They don't know she's the U.S. Attorney General, a woman who could crush their careers. This spark of racial bias ignites a firestorm, exposing corruption and reshaping justice. What happens when power meets prejudice? Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from, and if you stand for justice, hit like and subscribe because tomorrow's episode is one you won't want to miss. Lena Harris moved through Atlanta's spring-lit streets with a steady, purposeful stride, her tailored navy blazer catching the golden hue of late afternoon. The city buzzed around her, alive with the hum of traffic and the chatter of pedestrians spilling from cafes. Dogwood blossoms drifted on a warm breeze, their petals dusting the sidewalks like confetti. At 42, Lena carried the weight of her title U.S. Attorney General with quiet authority, her sharp brown eyes scanning the world with the precision of a woman who missed nothing. Tonight, she was crafting a speech in her mind, one that would unveil a bold plan to overhaul policing across the nation, a dream rooted in decades of pain and triumph. Her heels clicked against the pavement, each step a reminder of how far she'd come from the cracked asphalt of her childhood neighborhood, where hope was scarce and danger lurked in every shadow. As she walked, memories flickered unbidden, sharp and vivid, pulling her back to a night 26 years ago when she was 16, standing frozen on a stoop, watching police drag her brother Jamal away. He'd been laughing minutes earlier, tossing a basketball with friends, his grin bright enough to light the block. Then came the sirens, the shouts, the gunfire. Jamal, unarmed, was gone before the ambulance arrived, his blood pooling under a street lamp. The cops called it a mistake, but no one was held accountable. That loss carved a wound in Lena that never healed, driving her to law school, to courtrooms, to the pinnacle of justice where she vowed to ensure no family endured what hers had. Now, as she approached a quaint bookstore on Peachtree Street, she pushed the memory down, focusing on a simpler task, buying a gift for her niece Aisha, a budding poet who deserved a moment of joy. The bell above the door jingled as Lena stepped inside, the scent of aged paper and fresh ink wrapping around her like a warm embrace. Shelves towered with novels and histories, their spines whispering stories of struggle and resilience. She scanned the poetry section, her fingers tracing titles until she found a leather-bound collection of Maya Angelou's work, perfect for Aisha's 17th birthday. At the counter, a young clerk with braided hair and a bright smile rang up the purchase, her name tag reading Tasha. Lena handed over cash, their conversation easy, warm, 2 black women sharing a fleeting connection in a city that often felt divided. Tasha slipped the book into a paper bag, joking about her own clumsy attempts at poetry, and Lena laughed, her guard softening for a moment. She didn't notice the squad car parked across the street, its tinted windows hiding 2 pairs of eyes locked on her every move. Officers Carl Ramsey and Ethan Holt sat slouched in their cruiser, coffee cups sweating in their hands, their radios crackling with routine calls. Ramsey, 48, broad-shouldered with a buzz cut gone grey, chewed gum with a scowl, his world-view hardened by years of unchecked power. To him, Atlanta's streets were a battlefield, and people like Lena, polished and confident, were out of place, suspect by default. Holt, 29, lean and jittery, was Ramsey's shadow, eager to prove, himself under the veteran's lead. His training was less about law and more about survival, shaped by Ramsey's bitter lessons that trust was a luxury they couldn't afford. As they watched Lena chat with Tasha, Ramsey's eyes narrowed, his jaw tightening. Something about her, ease, her tailored clothes, sparked a flicker of resentment he couldn't name. Holt squinted, catching the exchange of the bag. "Did you see that?" he muttered, his voice low, uncertain. Ramsey nodded, slow and deliberate. "Yeah," she passed something. To the girl, could be cash, drugs, who knows, too smooth, too calm, that's what's off. Holt hesitated, his fingers tapping the dashboard, but Ramsey's certainty was infectious. In this part of town, decisions were made fast, evidence optional, especially when the target fit a profile they'd long since memorized. Ramsey crumpled, his cup, tossing it to the floor. "Let's move. We're not letting this slide." They stepped out, badges glinting under streetlights, their boots heavy on the pavement as they crossed toward the bookstore. Lena emerged just then, the paper bag tucked under her arm, her thoughts drifting back to her speech, words about accountability and reform circling her mind. She didn't see the officers until they were upon her, their shadows looming in the fading light. Ramsey's voice cut through the evening air, sharp and commanding. "Stop right there. Hands where we can see them." Lena froze, her pulse quickening, but her face remained a mask of calm. She turned slowly, meeting Ramsey's glare. With a steady gaze, her years in courtrooms teaching her to read intent in a single glance. These men had already judged her, their eyes cold with assumption. Holt flanked her, his hand hovering near his holster, nervous but obedient. "What's the problem, officer?" Lena asked, her voice low, measured, carrying the weight of someone who knew the law inside out. Ramsey smirked, stepping closer, his bulk crowding her space. "We saw you make a deal in there. Hand over the bag." Lena's brow arched, her mind racing to piece together their mistake. "A deal," she said, letting the word hang, her tone laced with disbelief. "I bought a book. That's all." Holt shifted, glancing at Ramsey, but the older cop was undeterred. "Open it," he snapped, his hand outstretched. Lena complied, slow and deliberate, pulling out the poetry collection, its cover gleaming under the streetlight. Ramsey snatched it, flipping through pages as if expecting contraband to spill out. Finding nothing. His scowl deepened, his pride stung. Holt muttered something about checking her ID, but Ramsey was beyond procedure now. "You're coming with us," he growled, grabbing her wrist with a force that made her wince. The paper bag hit the ground, the book tumbling onto the sidewalk, its pages fluttering in the breeze. Before Lena could protest, Ramsey spun her around, slamming her against the squad car's hood, the metal cold against her cheek. Pain shot through her shoulder as he twisted her arm, handcuffs biting into her wrists, drawing a thin line of blood. The crowd that had gathered, drawn by the commotion, gasped, phones raised to capture the scene. A teenage boy in a hoodie filmed, from the curb, his voice trembling as he narrated to his live stream. "She didn't do anything, man, they're just grabbing her." Lena's mind flashed to Jamal, to the night he was pinned like this, his pleas ignored. She forced the memory down, her breath steadying as she locked eyes with a woman in the crowd, silently urging her to keep recording. Ramsey yanked her upright, shoving her toward the car's open door while Holt rifled through her bag again, his hands shaking. "Nothing here," he whispered, but Ramsey shot him a look that silenced doubt. "They'll find something," he muttered, low enough for only Holt to hear. As Lena slid into the back seat, the door slamming shut with a hollow thud, she caught Ramsey, slipping a small object into her bag, a glint of metal catching the light. A bracelet, stolen, planted to seal her fate. Her stomach twisted, not with fear but with fury, the realization hitting that this wasn't a misunderstanding, it was a trap. Outside, the crowd grew louder, their voices a mix of outrage and disbelief. The boys' livestream surged, thousands tuning in, comments flooding with hashtags demanding justice. Lena's face, calm but unyielding, filled screens across Atlanta, then beyond, as the video spread like wildfire. Inside the car, Ramsey climbed into the driver's seat, his grin smug while Holt fidgeted, glancing back at Lena through the rearview mirror. She met his gaze, her eyes burning with a resolve that made him flinch. "You don't know who I am," she said softly, her voice a blade wrapped in velvet. Ramsey chuckled, turning the key, the engine roaring to life. "Doesn't matter. You're ours now." Lena leaned back, her mind already working, cataloguing every detail, their badge numbers, the planted evidence, the crowd's footage. She was the nation's top law enforcer, a woman who'd dismantled cartels and corrupt officials, yet here she was, cuffed and accused, her power stripped by two men blinded by bias. The irony cut deep, but it also sharpened her focus. This wasn't just about her. It was about every black person who'd faced this humiliation. Every life crushed by a system that saw them as less. As the car sped toward the precinct, Lena's thoughts turned to her speech, the one she'd never deliver tonight. But another plan was forming, one forged in this moment of injustice. She'd turn their mistake into a reckoning. Unbeknownst to Ramsey and Holt, a woman across the street, Maya Torres, a journalist with a knack for uncovering truth, had watched it all. Her phone was already open, her fingers flying across the screen as she tweeted a single sentence. "I just saw the U.S. Attorney General arrested for nothing in Atlanta." The post exploded, retweets climbing into the thousands, newsrooms scrambling to verify. Maya's camera stayed trained on the squad car as it pulled away, Lena's silhouette framed in the window, a symbol of defiance. Ramsey and Holt drove, Hon oblivious to the storm they'd unleashed, their laughter filling the car as they congratulated themselves on a job well done. They didn't know that in hours their names would be infamous, their careers in ruins, all because they'd picked the wrong woman to frame. The squad car screeched to a halt outside an Atlanta precinct, its faded brick walls looming under flickering streetlights. Lena Harris sat in the back seat, wrists throbbing where handcuffs had cut into her skin, her navy blazer now smeared with dirt from the arrest. The metallic tang of blood lingered in her mouth, a reminder of Officer Carl Ramsey's brutal grip. Yet her eyes, sharp and unyielding, burned with a fire no cell could dim. She was the U.S. Attorney General, a title that should have stopped this nightmare. But here she was, dragged through a back entrance like a common thief. The precinct's interior hit her with a wave of stale air, thick with the scent of burnt coffee and disinfectant. Ramsey shoved her forward, his boots thudding on the linoleum, while Ethan Holt trailed behind, clutching her bookstore bag, the planted bracelet hidden inside. They led her to a holding cell, its grey bars rusted, the cot sagging under years of despair. Lena's heels echoed as she stepped inside, the door slamming shut with a clang that reverberated in her chest. She stood tall, refusing to sit, her mind racing to catalogue every violation. Ramsey leaned against the bars, his smirk wide, taunting. "Got yourself in a mess, huh? Should have cooperated." Lena met his gaze, her voice steady as steel. "I'd like my phone call. Now. The law requires it." Holt shifted uneasily, his fingers twitching, but Ramsey laughed, low and cruel. "You don't give orders here." He tossed the bag onto a nearby table, the stolen bracelet glinting as he pulled it out, dangling it like a trophy. "Found this in your bag? Shoplifting's a crime, you know." Lena's pulse spiked, but her face remained a mask. "That's not mine, and you know it." She stepped closer to the bars, her words precise, cutting. "Fourth Amendment, Section 1. Prohibits unlawful seizure without probable cause. You have no evidence, no witnesses, no grounds. Release me, or this precinct will answer for it." Ramsey's grin faltered for a split second, his eyes narrowing at her command of the law. But Holt's nervous glance betrayed their unease. She was too calm, too certain, and it gnawed at them. Lena felt a flicker of hope, believing her title would surface. Soon that Maya Torres's tweet was already spreading, that this would end with a single call. She was wrong. The precinct door swung open, and a new figure strode in, his presence sucking the air from the room. Captain Victor Klein, a towering man with a shaved head and a stare cold as winter, moved with the confidence of someone untouchable. His uniform was crisp, his badge polished, but his reputation was anything but clean. Whispers in legal circles painted him as a fixer, a man who buried misconduct with favors and threats. Klein's eyes locked on Lena, sizing her up, dismissing her as just another problem to squash. Ramsey straightened, tossing the bracelet to Klein, who caught it without looking. "Caught her stealing, boss. Got the evidence right here." Klein turned, the bracelet over, his lips curling slightly. "Good work. Hold her. No bail. Public safety risk." Lena's stomach dropped, her hope crumbling. "Public safety," she said, her voice rising, each word a challenge. "I'm a federal officer, detained, without charge, assaulted without cause. You're violating federal law." Klein stepped closer, his shadow falling across her, his voice low, menacing. "You're nobody here. Keep talking and it gets worse." He turned to Ramsey, nodding toward the hallway. "Get that video out. Show the city what she did." Lena's mind raced as Klein's words sank in. Video? Her arrest was filmed, but not by them. They couldn't mean the crowd's footage. the live stream trending online exposing their lies. Then it hit her, a chill racing down her spine. They were crafting their own narrative. As Klein walked out, Ramsey and Holt moved to a corner desk, where a tech officer was already editing footage. Lena caught glimpses through the bars, doctored clips showing her slipping the bracelet into her bag, her face blurred just enough to sell the lie. The video hit social media minutes later, posted from an anonymous precinct account captioned, "Thief caught red-handed in Atlanta. Protect our stores." Comments flooded in, some outraged, others vicious, swallowing the lie whole. Lena's name wasn't yet public, but the damage was done, her image twisted into a criminal's. She gripped the bars, her knuckles whitening, the weight of their conspiracy pressing against her chest. Outside, Atlanta's streets were erupting. Protests swelled near the precinct, hundreds gathering under dogwood trees, their signs bold, "Justice now, stop the lies." Chants of Lena's name echoed, fueled by Maya's tweet, now viral with millions of views. News vans lined the block, reporters shouting questions into cameras, while hashtags trended nationwide. "Lena Harris didn't do this," one read. "Free the Attorney General," screamed another. The crowd's energy was a lifeline, but inside these walls it felt distant, drowned out by the precinct's hum of corruption. Lena paced her cell, her mind replaying every detail. The planted evidence, Klein's orders, the fake video. She'd faced cartels, senators, entire syndicates, but this was different, personal, a betrayal of the justice she'd sworn to uphold. Her brother Jamal's face flashed before her, his laugh, his lifeless eyes, and she clenched her fists, vowing not to break. She'd expose them, starting with that bracelet, their first mistake. Then she overheard Ramsey, his voice carrying from the hallway, smug and unguarded. "Not the first time we've done this," he said to Holt, chuckling. "Plant a little something, make it stick. They never fight back." Holt's laugh was nervous, but he didn't argue. Lena's blood ran cold, her hope fading as the truth sank in. This wasn't a mistake, a one-off act of bias. It was a system, a machine they'd run for years, targeting people who looked like her, destroying lives for quotas and power. Klein wasn't just covering for Ramsey and Holt. He was the architect, and she was their latest target. Her cell felt smaller, the walls closing in, but her resolve hardened. She'd been here before, not in a cell, but in moments of despair when the world seemed stacked against her. She'd clawed her way to the top, and she'd do it again. As Ramsey passed her cell, he tapped the bars, grinning. "Get comfy. You're not going anywhere." Lena didn't flinch, her eyes locked on his, reading every flicker of arrogance. She was about to respond when a faint click caught her ear, a sound so subtle she almost missed it. Her gaze darted to the corner of her cell, where a tiny red light blinked, barely visible behind a loose ceiling tile. A camera, hidden, recording her every move. Someone was watching, someone beyond Klein's reach, and that changed everything. Who had placed it, and why? Was it a trap or her salvation? Her heart pounded, but she kept her face neutral, masking her discovery. Ramsey walked away oblivious, but Lena's mind was alive, plotting her next move in a game she was only beginning to understand. If you believe no one should be judged by their skin, comment number 1 below, hit like, and subscribe to join. The fight for truth. Have you ever seen justice twisted like this? Share your thoughts, because Lena's battle is just heating up. Who's watching her through that hidden lens, and what do they want? Keep watching to find out. Lena Harris stood in the dim cell, the red blink of the hidden camera burning into her thoughts like a beacon in a storm. The Atlanta precinct's walls seemed to pulse with the weight of corruption, the air heavy with the stench of mildew and betrayal. Her wrists, still raw from handcuffs, ached under her stained blazer, but her mind was a blade, slicing through despair to find a way out. She was the U.S. Attorney General, a woman who'd faced down titans, yet here she was, caged, by lies rooted in the color of her skin. The memory of her brother Jamal surged unbidden, his voice clear as the day he died, 16 years old, promising her they'd escape their neighborhood together. "Stay strong, Lena," he'd said, tossing her his basketball with a grin. Hours later, Police bullets stole him, leaving her with a vow etched in grief to fight for justice no matter the cost. Now that vow was all she had. She paced the cell's cracked floor, replaying Captain Victor Klein's cold orders. No bail, public safety risk, and Officer Carl Ramsey's smug confession, not the first time we've done this. The doctored video smearing her as a thief was spreading, poisoning the city's trust, but the protests outside chanting her name were proof the truth was fighting to break free. Maya Torres's tweet had lit a fuse, and Lena clung to the hope that her team was moving, that her title would shatter these bars. She just needed a spark to ignite her escape. Footsteps echoed down the hall, slow and deliberate, not the heavy stomp of Ramsey or the nervous shuffle of Ethan Holt. Lena froze, her eyes narrowing as a shadow approached. A man appeared, wiry and graying, his janitor's uniform hanging loose on a frame that carried quiet defiance. His name tag read Marcus, and his dark eyes held a knowing glint, like someone who'd seen the precinct's underbelly and survived. He pushed a mop lazily, but his gaze locked on Lena's, a silent question passing between them. She didn't speak, sensing the moment's fragility, her years in court teaching her to read allies in a glance. Marcus stopped, checking the empty hallway, then slid a small object through the bars, a burner phone, its edges worn but functional. "Use it quick," he whispered, his voice low, rough with urgency. "I know who you are, General. I've got evidence on Klein, years of his dirt. Get it out and he's done." Lena's heart leapt, her fingers closing around the phone, its weight a lifeline. "Who are you?" she asked softly, her voice steady but probing. Marcus's lips twitched, not quite a smile. "Someone who learned the hard way," he said. "Used to wear badge till I called out their games. They broke me, but not enough to stay quiet." Lena nodded, trust forming in the space between his words. She hid the phone in her sleeve, her mind racing with possibilities. If Marcus was telling the truth, Klein's empire of lies could crumble, but she had to act fast. As Marcus turned to leave, she caught his arm through the bars. "Why risk this?" she asked, searching his face. He paused, his eyes distant, haunted. "Because I've seen too many fall," he said. "You're different. You can end it." He slipped away, the mops wet. Slap fading down the hall, leaving Lena alone with her plan. She crouched in the cell's corner, shielding the phone from the hidden camera's gaze, her pulse hammering. She dialed Sarah Nguyen, her deputy, a fierce lawyer who'd been with her through every battle. The line connected after one ring, Sarah's voice sharp with worry. "Lena, where are you? We're tearing the city apart looking for you." Lena kept her words tight, precise. "I'm in Klein's precinct, framed for theft. Get a federal team here now. I've got a lead on evidence, but they're closing in." Sarah swore softly, already typing, her efficiency a comfort. "I'm on it. Hold tight, Lena. We'll have you out by dawn." Lena hung up, slipping the phone into her sock, a faint smile breaking through her tension. Sarah's team was unstoppable, and with Marcus's evidence, Klein's reign was over. She stood, feeling the tide turn, her spirit lifting as she imagined Ramsey's face when federal agents stormed in. Victory was close, so close she could taste it. The moment she'd walk free and turn their trap against them. Then the cell block door crashed open, shattering her hope like glass. Ramsey stormed in, his face twisted with rage, Holt trailing behind, eyes wide with panic. Ramsey's boots stopped inches from the bars, his hand gripping a radio crackling. With static. "Someone tipped us off," he snarled, his voice a low growl. "You've been busy, haven't you?" Lena's stomach twisted, but she kept her face blank, her mind racing to protect Marcus. Before she could speak, Ramsey unlocked the cell, yanking her out with a force that sent her stumbling. "Where's the phone?" he barked, patting her down, his hands rough, invasive. Lena stayed silent, her eyes locked on his, refusing to break. Holt searched the cell, tossing the cot, but found nothing, his breath hitching as Ramsey's glare burned into him. Lena's relief was fleeting, cut short by a shout from the hallway. "Bring him in!" Ramsey roared, and two officers dragged Marcus. Forward, his face bloodied, one eye swollen shut. Lena's heart sank, her fists clenching as guilt stabbed through her. Marcus groaned, barely conscious, but his gaze met hers, unyielding, urging her to keep fighting. Ramsey grabbed Marcus by the collar, slamming him against the wall. You You could play hero, he spat, his fist crashing into Marcus's stomach. Lena lunged forward, stopped by Holt's grip, her voice sharp with fury. Let him go, he's done nothing. Ramsey turned, his grin feral, chilling. Oh, he's done plenty, and so have you. He nodded to the officers, who hauled Marcus away, his feet dragging on the floor. Lena's mind screamed to act, but Ramsey wasn't done. He leaned close, his breath hot with menace. You're not just a thief now, he said. You're inciting a riot. Those crowds out there, they're on you. Lena's eyes widened, the protests flashing in her mind, the chance now twisted into a trap. She'd thought her call to Sarah was her to escape, but Klein had turned it against her, spinning the city's anger into chaos she'd be blamed for. The precinct's radio buzzed, a reporter's voice cutting through. Violent protests escalate outside Atlanta precinct, linked to suspect Lena Harris. Klein appeared at the cell block's edge, his silhouette towering, his voice smooth as ice. Have the charges, he said to Ramsey. Obstructing justice, inciting violence. She's not leaving this place. Lena's knees buckled, the weight of new charges crushing her fleeting victory. Klein's eyes gleamed, savoring her silence, believing he'd broken her. He leaned closer, his words a venomous whisper. You thought you could outsmart me. I own this city. Your name's nothing here. He turned away, leaving Lena with Ramsey, who shoved her back into the cell, the door slamming shut. She sank to the floor, her blazer tearing at the seam, her breath ragged. The protests outside roared louder, sirens wailing as the city teetered on the edge. Klein's lie had turned her allies into enemies, her hope into a weapon against her. She pressed her hands to her face, fighting despair, Jamal's voice echoing, Stay strong, Lena. She couldn't give up, not when Marcus had risked everything, not when Sarah was still out there. As Ramsey's footsteps faded, a soft clatter broke the silence. Lena's eyes darted to the cell's corner, where a second burner phone lay half hidden under the cot, its screen cracked but glowing. Marcus's doing, she realized, her pulse surging. He'd planned for this even as they beat him, leaving her one last chance to fight back. She grabbed it, her fingers trembling, knowing every second counted. Klein thought he'd won, but Lena was far from finished, and the game was about to change. Lena Harris stepped into the Atlanta courtroom, her wrist still marked by faint bruises, her navy blazer swapped for a gray jumpsuit that hung loose on her frame. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood and nervous sweat. The gallery, packed with reporters, protesters, and curious locals, their whispers buzzing like static. 2 days had passed since Marcus's beating, since Captain Victor Klein had buried her under new charges of inciting a riot, each one a heavier chain forged in racial bias. Lena's eyes, sharp despite sleepless nights, scanned the room, landing on the judge's bench where Raymond Tate sat, his silver hair glinting under fluorescent lights, his face unreadable. She knew his reputation, a man rumored to bend justice for the right price, and her gut told her Klein's shadow loomed behind him. Lena stood beside her lawyer, Priya Patel, a fierce advocate who'd flown in from D.C., her briefcase stuffed, with evidence of Lena's identity as the U.S. Attorney General. The second burner phone Marcus had slipped her was safe, hidden with a guard Priya had bribed, its promise of Klein's downfall fueling Lena's resolve. She clung to the memory of her brother Jamal, his voice a quiet anchor. Stay strong, Lena. As she faced a system that saw her not as a legal titan, but as a black woman to be crushed. The bailiff called the court to order, and Priya wasted no time, her voice cutting through the tension. Your Honor, my client is Lena Harris, the U.S. Attorney General, detained without cause, assaulted and slandered with fabricated charges. We demand immediate release. She presented a sworn affidavit from Lena's deputy, Sarah Nguyen, confirming her identity, backed by federal records glowing on a projector screen. Gasps rippled through the crowd, cameras flashing as reporters scribbled furiously. Lena felt the room shift, the weight of truth pressing against Klein's lies. Protesters outside, their chants audible through sealed windows, roared her name, Justice for Lena, a tide of support that made her heart swell. She locked eyes with a young woman in the gallery, her fist raised in solidarity. And for a moment Lena believed freedom was hers. Judge Tate leaned forward, his glasses catching the light, his voice measured. "These are serious claims, Ms. Patel. I'll hear the state's case." Lena's hope surged, her lips twitching toward a smile. Priya had them cornered, Klein's frame-up, unraveling under scrutiny. Then Officer Carl Ramsey took the stand, his uniform pressed, his face a mask of false sincerity. He held up the stolen bracelet, now bagged as evidence, and spun a tale of catching Lena slipping it into her bookstore bag, his voice steady, rehearsed. "Found stolen goods on her, Your Honor," he said, producing forged receipts from the store, timestamps doctored to match the arrest. Holt sat behind him, pale and silent, his hands clasped tight to hide their trembling. Priya pounced, her cross-examination ruthless. "Officer Ramsey, where's the store's security footage? Why no witness corroboration? Your receipt lists a sale at 9 p.m., but Ms. Harris was arrested at 6. The gallery murmured, jurors shifting, their doubt palpable. Lena's chest loosened, victory so close she could taste it, the courtroom tilting in her favor. Tate's pen paused, his eyes flickering to the prosecution table where a county attorney squirmed. Lena imagined walking out, exposing Klein, reclaiming her name. She was wrong. Klein entered the courtroom, his presence a storm cloud, his polished shoes clicking with purpose. He whispered to the prosecutor, then took a seat, his stare fixed on Tate. The judge cleared his throat, his tone shifting, colder now. "Order," he barked, silencing the crowd. "Miss Patel, your objections are noted, but the evidence raises concerns. Ms. Harris poses a flight risk, given the riot charges. Bail is denied." Lena's breath caught, her vision narrowing as the gallery erupted, shouts of shame. Corruption drowning out Priya's protests. Tate's gavel slammed, his face a stone wall, but Lena caught the nervous dart of his eyes toward Klein, a puppet string pulled tight. Her hope shattered, the courtroom's air turning suffocating, her jumpsuit heavier than ever. Priya gripped her arm, whispering, "We'll appeal, Lena, stay with me." But Klein wasn't finished. He stood nodding to the prosecutor, who called a surprise witness. The courtroom doors opened, and Tasha, the bookstore clerk, stepped forward, her braids pulled back, her eyes downcast, trembling. Lena's heart sank, recognition mixing with dread. Tasha, who'd laughed with her over poetry, now faced the stand, her voice barely audible. "She threatened me," Tasha said, her words halting, forced. "Said she'd ruin me if I didn't let her take the bracelet." The gallery exploded again, reporters shouting questions, jurors gasping. Lena shook her head, her voice lost in the chaos, knowing Tasha's fear wasn't of her, but of Klein's reach. Priya objected, citing coercion, but Tate overruled, his gavel a death knell. The lie landed like a blade, cutting deeper than Ramsey's cuffs, turning Lena's kindness into a weapon. She saw it now, Klein's web. Not just cops, but clerks, judges, an entire system rigged to bury her. The crowd's cheers outside faded, drowned by the courtroom's venom, and Lena's team faltered, Priya's pen shaking as she scribbled notes. Lena sat, her back straight, refusing to crumble, but her mind raced with questions. How had Klein gotten to Tasha? What else did he control? Her eyes drifted to Tate's bench. Catching a nervous glance, he shot Klein, a crack in his facade. It wasn't much, but it was enough. A hint of a larger machine at work, one she'd have to dismantle piece by piece. Klein rose, his smirk subtle but searing, believing he'd caged her for good. He leaned toward the prosecutor, whispering orders, then left, his exit a silent promise of more pain to come. Lena's fingers tightened around her chair. Jamal's voice echoing, "Stay strong, Lena." She'd lost this round, but the fight wasn't over. Tate adjourned the hearing, and guards moved to escort Lena out, their grips rough, unnecessary. The gallery watched, some weeping, others filming, their phones a lifeline to the world beyond these walls. Lena held her head high, her eyes burning, with defiance, knowing Sarah was still out there, that Marcus's phone held secrets, that Maya's cameras were waiting. Klein thought he'd won, but he'd underestimated her, and that was his first mistake. As the courtroom doors closed, Lena's resolve hardened, her mind already plotting, ready to turn this ambush into a counterstrike. If you think justice should never bend to power, comment #1 below, hit like and subscribe to stand with Lena's fight. Can you imagine facing a lie that turns your kindness against you? Share your thoughts, because this battle's far from over. What's Klein hiding behind that judge's glance, and how will Lena break free? Keep watching to uncover the truth. The county jail's transport van rattled over Atlanta's uneven roads, its steel walls trapping Lena Harris in a suffocating cage. Her grey jumpsuit clung to her skin, damp with sweat, the bruises on her wrists now joined by fresh welts from the courtroom's rough escort. The air was stale, thick with the scent of rust and despair, and the van's jolts sent pain shooting through her shoulders. Lena's mind churned, replaying Judge Raymond Tate's betrayal, his nervous glance at Captain Victor Klein sealing her fate. She was the U.S. Attorney General, a title that once commanded courtrooms, now meaningless behind bars. Yet her eyes, fierce and unbroken, burned with the memory of her brother Jamal, his last laugh before police stole him, urging her to fight. "Stay strong, Lena," his voice echoed, a lifeline in this abyss. The van lurched to a stop, and guards yanked her out, their grips bruising as they marched her through the jail's towering gates. The facility loomed, a concrete fortress ringed with razor wire, its floodlights casting harsh shadows. Inside, the clang of steel doors and shouts of inmates filled the air, a cacophony of lost hope. Lena was led to solitary confinement, a 6x8 cell with a cracked sink and a mattress thin as paper. The door slammed shut, the lock's click final isolating her from the world. Her title, her power, stripped away, she stood alone, the weight of Klein's conspiracy pressing down. Tasha's coerced testimony, Ramsey's lies, Tate's ruling, all rooted in her race, a system designed to bury black voices like hers. But Lena refused to break, her mind clinging to Priya's promise of an appeal, to Marcus's hidden phone, to Sarah's federal team. She'd survived worse, the grief of Jamal's death, the climb to justice's peak, and she'd survived this. She paced the cell, her bare feet cold on the concrete, plotting her next move. An appeal was coming, she told herself, Priya's evidence too strong to ignore. Klein couldn't silence the protests, couldn't erase Maya's tweet, now a global cry for her freedom. Lena closed her eyes, imagining the courtroom doors swinging open, her name cleared, Klein's empire in ruins. She believed she'd walk free, that this cell was temporary, a pause before justice reclaimed her. She was wrong. The cell block's silence shattered as a siren blared, red lights pulsing through the bars. Footsteps pounded, and Lena tensed, her instincts screaming danger. The door flew open, revealing 3 inmates, their eyes hard, knuckles scarred, moving with predatory intent. The leader, a woman with a shaved head and a snake tattoo curling up her arm, smirked, cracking her fists. "You, Harris," she said, her voice low, venomous, "got a message for you." Lena backed against the wall, her heart racing, but her face stayed, calm, years of facing threats honing her composure. "Who sent you?" she asked, her voice steady, probing. The woman laughed, stepping closer. "Doesn't matter, you're done." Before Lena could dodge, the woman swung, her fist slamming into Lena's, jaw sending her crashing to the floor. Pain exploded, blood flooding her mouth as the others joined in, kicks landing on her ribs, her back, each blow a thunderclap of hate. Lena curled tight, protecting her head, her mind flashing to Jamal, to the night he fell, the boots that kept coming. The guards outside didn't move, their silhouettes visible through the bars, watching, complicit. This wasn't random, it was Klein, his reach snaking into the jail, turning inmates into weapons. Lena gasped, fighting to breathe, her vision blurring as the leader grabbed her hair, yanking her up. "Should have stayed quiet," she hissed, her fist raised for another blow. Then a shout rang out, "Stop, now!" And the inmates froze, scattering. As a guard finally stepped in, his baton raised but his eyes cold, unbothered. Lena collapsed, blood dripping onto the concrete, her body screaming but her spirit unbroken. The guard hauled her to her feet, shoving her back into the cell, the door locking with a clang. She sank to the mattress, every breath a knife in. Her chest believing the worst was over, that she'd survived Klein's hit. She'd heal, she told herself, wait for Priya, expose the attack, turn it against him. Her hope was a flicker, fragile but alive, until a whisper reached her through the cell block's vents, chilling her blood. "They're coming again," an inmate's voice hissed, fear lacing every word. Klein's got a gang, real killers, paid to finish you. Lena's eyes widened, her pulse hammering as the truth sank in. Klein wasn't stopping at a beating. He'd leaked her location to a racist crew, notorious for targeting black prisoners, their blades sharper than fists. The jail, her refuge from court, was now a death trap, Klein's power dwarfing every threat she'd faced: the planted bracelet, the doctored video, Tasha's lie. Her fingers trembled, tracing the blood on her lip, despair clawing at her resolve. She thought of Jamal, of Aisha, her niece, waiting for her, and forced herself to stand, pain shooting through her ribs. She wouldn't die here. Not like this. Not when she had a fight left to win. As the cell block quieted, a new sound broke the tension, a soft tap at her door. Lena tensed, expecting another attack, but a guard appeared, young, her uniform too big, her eyes darting nervously. She slid a folded note through the bars, her whisper barely audible. From Marcus. Don't give up. Lena unfolded it, her breath catching as she read, Klein's got offshore accounts, proofs on a drive hidden in the laundry room, find it. The guard vanished, her footsteps fading, leaving Lena clutching the note, her mind alive with possibility. Marcus, bloodied but unbroken, had risked everything again, giving her a weapon to strike back. The drive could expose Klein's bribes, his deals, his empire, but reaching it meant surviving the gang, defying the guards, outsmarting a system rigged to kill her. Lena tucked the note into her jumpsuit, her eyes burning with new fire. Klein thought he'd buried her, but this cell was no grave, it was a battlefield, and she was ready to fight. Her ribs ached, her jaw throbbed, but her heart pounded with defiance, knowing the next move was hers, no matter how deadly the cost. Lena Harris crouched in her solitary cell, the cracked concrete biting into her knees, her grey jumpsuit stained with blood from the inmate attack. The faint glow of a flickering bulb cast shadows across her bruised face, but her eyes gleamed, with defiance, clutching Marcus's note like a lifeline. The words Klein's offshore accounts, proofs on a drive, hidden in the laundry room, burned in her mind, a weapon against Captain Victor Klein's empire of lies. Her ribs throbbed, each breath a reminder of the racist gang Klein had sicked on her, their blades still looming in the jail's shadows. Lena was the U.S. Attorney General, a title buried under charges of theft and riot incitement, all because she was a black woman who dared to wield power. Her brother Jamal's voice echoed, "Stay strong, Lena," pulling her back to nights when they dreamed of justice, before police bullets stole him at 16. Now, in this cell, justice was her only way out. She slid Marcus's flash drive from the notes fold, its tiny chip glinting with promise. Plugging it into the second burner phone, she squinted at the screen, decoding files that spilled secrets, bank transfers to judges, cops, even senators, Klein's bribes tying him to Atlanta's elite. Her pulse raced, the evidence enough to bury him, but she was trapped, guards watching, the gang's threat closing in. She needed to move now. Lena tucked the phone into her jumpsuit, her mind mapping the jail's layout from overheard whispers. Laundry room, east wing, past the guard station. She'd get the drive, send it to Maya Torres, the journalist whose tweet had sparked a movement. But first she had to escape this cell, a fortress built to break her. Footsteps echoed and Lena tensed, expecting Klein's goons. Instead, a soft knock came, the young guard from before, her eyes wide with fear. "Marcus sent me," she whispered, slipping a key through the bars. "He's alive, planning something big." "Go now." Lena's heart leapt, the key cold in her palm, a chance she hadn't dared hope for. She unlocked the cell, slipping into the dim corridor, her bare feet silent on the tiles. The jail hummed with distant shouts, but the east wing was quiet, guards distracted by a staged fight Marcus had arranged. Lena moved like a shadow, her bruised body screaming, but her will ironclad. She reached the laundry room, its air thick with steam and bleach, machines rumbling like a storm. Behind a dryer, she found the drive, taped tight, its weight heavier than gold. Back in the corridor, she dialed Sarah Nguyen, her deputy, whispering coordinates for a federal extraction. Sarah's voice crackled. "We're coming, Lena." "Marcus hacked the jail's cameras. We've got a team at the south gate. Hold on." Lena's chest swelled, freedom so close she could feel it, The drive's secrets ready to topple Klein. She slipped. Through a service tunnel, its walls slick with grime, guided by Marcus's map scrawled in the note. Sirens wailed above, but she was steps from the exit. Victory hers. She emerged in a warehouse, its crates stacked high, the night air cool through broken windows. Sarah's team was seconds away, headlights flashing outside. Lena smiled, clutching the drive, imagining Klein's face when Maya aired the truth. His empire ash. Then a click shattered her dream, a gun's hammer locking behind her. Officer Ethan Holt stepped from the shadows, his face pale, eyes wild, a radio crackling with Klein's voice. Trap her now. Lena froze, her breath hitching as Holt raised the barrel, his hands shaking. Someone ratted, he said, his voice breaking. You're not leaving. Before she could speak, Klein appeared, his polished shoes glinting, his grin chilling. Nice try, Harris, he said, snatching the drive and tossing it into a crate. He lit a match, the flame catching papers, the drive melting in the blaze. Lena's stomach dropped, her evidence gone, her plan in ruins. Klein leaned close, his breath hot with triumph. You're nothing without your toys, he said. And your deputy. She's next. Lena's eyes widened, dread flooding her as Klein revealed his counterstrike, doctored emails framing Sarah for treason, charges that could land her. In federal prison, the warehouse doors slammed shut, Holt's gun still trained on her. As Klein's laughter echoed, colder than the steel around them, Lena's knees buckled, the loss of the drive, the threat to Sarah, heavier than any beating. She'd outsmarted. Klein sent a copy of the files to Maya before entering the tunnel. A desperate backup, now her only hope. But Klein's reach was deeper, his retaliation crueler, turning her allies into targets. Holt hesitated, his finger on the trigger, but Klein barked, "Move!" and he shoved Lena toward a van, its engine idling. She stumbled, her mind racing, grasping for a way out. Then a faint beep caught her ear, a tracker sewn into her jumpsuit's hem, glowing faintly. Someone, Marcus, Sarah, maybe the guard, was still with her, a lifeline Klein hadn't seen. Her resolve flared, her eyes locking on the burning crate, the drive gone but not her fight. Klein thought he'd won, slamming her into the van, but Lena's copy was out there, and Maya's broadcast could still break him. As the van sped into the night, Lena's heart pounded, not with fear but with fury, knowing this trap was just another battle, and she'd fight until Klein's empire fell. If you believe no one should lose everything for standing up to corruption, comment number 1 below, hit like and subscribe to rally behind Lena's courage. Have you ever felt betrayed by a system meant to protect you? Share your story, because Lena's fight speaks for us all. What's the secret behind that tracker? And can Lena turn Klein's trap into her triumph? Stay tuned to see the fire she ignites next. Lena Harris sat in the back of a rattling van, her wrists bound with zip ties, the stench of gasoline and sweat choking the air. Her grey jumpsuit was torn, blood from her bruised ribs seeping through, but her eyes burned with a defiance that Captain Victor Klein couldn't snuff out. The tracker in her hem, its faint beep silenced now, was her secret. A thread of hope tying her to Marcus or Sarah, someone fighting for her still. She was the U.S. Attorney General, reduced to a fugitive in Atlanta's underbelly, all because her black skin marked her as a target for Klein's racist machine. The van swerved, tossing her against the wall, pain flaring as she recalled Klein burning Marcus's drive, his smug vow to frame Sarah for treason. But Lena had sent a copy to Maya Torres, the journalist whose tweet had ignited a firestorm, and that copy was her lifeline. The van stopped, and Officer Ethan Holt yanked her out, his face pale, eyes darting like a cornered animal. Klein stood, waiting in a deserted lot, his polished shoes absurd against the cracked asphalt, his grin sharp as a blade. "Back to your cage, Harris," he said, shoving her toward a waiting squad car. Lena's mind raced, clinging to Maya's broadcast, believing it would break Klein's grip. She pictured Atlanta's streets, the protests chanting her name, the world, watching as truth clawed free. She was wrong. Halfway to the jail, Klein's radio crackled and Maya's voice filled the car, urgent, commanding. "Breaking news," she said, her words a lifeline. "We've obtained evidence of Captain Victor Klein's corruption, offshore accounts linking him to illegal payoffs across Atlanta's justice system." Lena's heart soared, her lips twitching toward a smile. Maya had done it, airing the drive's secrets, exposing Klein's bribes to judges, cops, elites. The radio cut to crowd noise, thousands outside the precinct, their signs bold, "Free Lena Harris, End Klein's Lies." News anchors jumped in, confirming federal probes, senators demanding answers. Holt's hands tightened on the wheel, his knuckles white while Klein's smirk faltered, his fingers twitching toward his phone. Lena leaned forward, her voice low, steady. "It's over, Klein. The world knows." He spun, his eyes blazing, but said nothing, slamming the radio off. The car sped toward the courthouse, sirens wailing, as Lena felt victory inch closer. Maya's exposé was a tidal wave, her evidence airtight, and the protests were swelling, blocking streets, their chants shaking the city. Judge Raymond Tate, Klein's puppet, would face pressure now, no choice but to act. As they pulled up, Lena saw news vans, cameras flashing, reporters shouting questions. Priya Patel, her lawyer, stood on the steps, waving a federal injunction. Her face fierce. Lena's chest swelled, believing the tide had turned. Tate, cornered by public outrage, had scheduled a retrial, a chance to clear her name. The squad car door opened, and Priya rushed forward, whispering, "We've got this, Lena. The drive's out. Klein's finished." Lena stepped out, her jumpsuit a stark contrast to the tailored suits around her, but her head high, the crowd cheering, justice now, their voices a thunderclap. She imagined walking free, Klein cuffed, her title restored. Priya's team huddled, planning to shred Tasha's coerced testimony, expose Ramsey's lies, bury Tate's bias. Lena felt the ground shift, her fight gaining ground. The retrial, her path to redemption. Then Klein struck back, his counterattack a sledgehammer. Billboards across Atlanta lit up, flashing leaked texts. "Lena Harris to Priya Patel, I'll pay whatever to get out. Name your price." The crowd gasped, their cheers faltering, phones raised to capture the smear. Lena's stomach dropped, her eyes scanning the words. Fake, everyone, but crafted with chilling precision. News tickers shifted. Suspect Lena Harris accused of bribing. Legal team as networks looped the texts, pundits questioning her integrity. The protests splintered, some chanting traitor, others pleading for truth, the city's faith cracking under Klein's lie. Lena turned to Priya, her voice urgent. "It's not me, you know that." Priya nodded, her jaw tight, but the damage was done. The crowd's roar now a mix of anger and doubt. Klein leaned close, his whisper venomous. "You're no hero now, Harris." "You're nothing." Before Lena could respond, Officer Carl Ramsey stormed through the courthouse doors, leading a tactical team, their boots pounding. He shoved past Priya, barking orders, "Search her cell now." Lena's heart sank, knowing what came next. Ramsey's team raided Maya's studio simultaneously, trashing servers, wiping backups of the drive's files, a surgical strike to bury the truth. Minutes later, Ramsey returned, holding a baggie of white powder, grinning as he waved it before the cameras. "Found this in Harris's cell," he said. "Drug possession, new charges." Lena's knees buckled, the lie so brazen it stole her breath. Holt, trailing Ramsey, avoided her gaze, his hands shaking, complicity eating him alive. The crowd's shouts turned hostile, bottles thrown at the courthouse steps, faith in Lena crumbling. Priya argued, "It's planted, obvious," but Tate's gavel slammed, ordering Lena back to jail, no bail, retrial delayed. The gallery erupted, reporters shouting, "Is Harris a criminal mastermind?" Lena's team faltered, Priya's eyes wet with frustration, their strategy in tatters. Klein watched from the sidelines, his smirk wider, believing he'd turned her victory to ash. Lena was led away, zip ties cutting deeper, her body aching, her name a curse on half the city's lips. The protests outside dwindled, some abandoning, her others clinging to hope. But the media storm had shifted, painting her as a fraud, a black woman who'd dared too much, now punished for it. Klein's lie wasn't just about drugs or bribes. It was about erasing her power, her identity, ensuring she'd fall alone. Lena's cell door slammed shut, the same cracked sink, the same thin mattress. But now the weight was heavier, her allies scattered, her legacy smeared. She sank to the floor, her ribs screaming, Jamal's voice faint. "Stay strong, Lena. Despair clawed at her, the city's betrayal sharper than any blade. Then a faint scratch broke the silence, a coded tap on the wall. Morse code, a trick Marcus had taught her as a kid playing spy games. She pressed her ear to the concrete, decoding, "I'm alive, plans on, check vent." Her breath caught, hope flickering as she pried open the cell's vent, finding a crumpled note. Marcus's handwriting, "We're hitting Klein harder, stay ready." Lena's eyes burned, Marcus's survival a spark in the dark. Klein thought he'd crushed her, but Marcus was out there, plotting, and Lena would rise again, ready to turn this storm into his downfall. Lena Harris slumped against her cell's cold concrete wall, the faint Morse code tap from Marcus still echoing in her mind, a lifeline in a sea of betrayal. Her grey jumpsuit hung tattered, bloodstains from her ribs darkening the fabric, her bruised face throbbing under the jail's dim bulb. The air was heavy with mildew, each breath a reminder of Captain Victor Klein's latest blow. Fake texts and planted drugs that turned Atlanta's cheers to jeers, branding her a corrupt fraud. She was the U.S. Attorney General, a title now, smeared by lies rooted in her race, a black woman too powerful for Klein's world. Marcus's note, "We're hitting Klein harder, stay ready," burned in her pocket, a promise she clung to, though despair gnawed at her edges. Her brother Jamal's voice whispered, "Stay strong, Lena," pulling her back to nights when they'd planned a better future, before police stole him at 16. Now in this solitary cage, she fought to honor that vow, to rise above Klein's machine. The cell door creaked and a guard, not the young one Marcus trusted, motioned her out, his eyes hard, unreadable. "Caught again," he grunted, cuffing her wrists, the metal biting deeper than before. Lena's heart quickened, sensing a shift, Priya's appeal or Sarah's federal push breaking through. She was led to a van, then a courthouse annex, a smaller room buzzing with new faces, not the hostile gallery but a select crowd, lawmakers, aides, cameras. At the center stood Senator Claire Evans, 55, her silver hair sleek, her smile warm but calculated, a rising star known for justice reform. Lena's lawyer, Priya Patel, whispered, "She's here for you, Lena. Wants to expose Klein." Lena's hope flickered, cautious but alive, Evans' reputation a beacon after Tate's betrayal. The hearing began, Evans at a podium, her voice clear, commanding, addressing a congressional panel via live stream. "I stand with Lena Harris," she declared, holding up bank records, Klein's offshore accounts, leaked by an anonymous source, Marcus's work, Lena realized. These prove Captain Victor Klein's corruption, bribing judges, rigging trials, targeting an innocent black woman, our Attorney General. The room erupted, aides clapping, reporters typing, cameras flashing as Evans detailed Klein's payoffs, linking him to Judge Raymond Tate, to Officer Carl Ramsey's arrests. Lena's chest swelled, her eyes meeting Priya's, victory so close she could taste it. Evans' evidence was ironclad, the crowd chanting, "Free Lena" outside, protests reigniting, their signs bold, "Justice for Harris." Lena imagined Klein's face, his empire cracking, her name cleared. Evans paused, her gaze locking on Lena, a nod of solidarity that felt like freedom. The panel leaned forward, a senator murmuring, "This changes everything," and Priya squeezed Lena's hand, whispering, "We've got him." Lena stood taller, her jumpsuit no barrier to her strength, believing she'd walk out, reclaim her title, bury Klein's lies. She was wrong. Evans's tone shifted, her smile tightening as she flipped a page, her voice colder now. "But questions remain," she said, about Ms. Harris's role. "Evidence suggests she orchestrated a coup, using her office to destabilize Atlanta's justice system." Gasps ripped through the room, Lena's breath catching, her knees weakening as Evans projected emails. "Lena to aides, plan the takeover. Klein's just the start." The words were fake, a digital forgery, but they landed like bombs. The crowds, cheers turning to murmurs, reporters shouting, "Is Harris a traitor?" Lena's eyes widened, her voice lost in the chaos. Priya's objections drowned by Evans's calm, "We must investigate. Impeachment is on the table." Lena's legacy, her life's work, teetered on the edge, Klein's hand behind Evans's betrayal clearer than ever. The hearing spiraled, lawmakers demanding answers, Impeachment hearings set for dawn. Lena's heart sank, her hope shattered, the room a blur of accusing eyes. She'd trusted Evans, believed her a savior, but Klein had turned her into a weapon, his racist vendetta now threatening not just her freedom, but her place in history. Officer Carl Ramsey entered, his grin smug, holding a tablet with falsified audio. Lena's voice distorted, confessing, "I'll bring the system down, starting with Klein." The crowd roared, some shouting, "Lock her up," others pleading, "It's..." Lie, but the damage was done, Evans's gavel falling like a guillotine. Lena's team crumbled, Priya's note scattering, her face pale. Sarah's treason charge now mirrored in Lena's coup accusation. Klein slipped in, his presence a shadow, his whisper chilling as he passed. "Your family's next, Harris." Aisha's. Face flashed in Lena's mind, her niece 17 vulnerable, Klein's cruelty sinking deeper than any cell. Lena's fists clenched, despair battling fury, her resolve fraying but unbroken. She'd lost the crowd, the city, her name, but Marcus's note burned, a reminder to fight. As guards led her out, cameras flashing, she scanned Evans's face, catching a flicker of unease, a crack in her poise. Lena's mind raced, piecing. Together whispers from Priya. Evans's campaign funded by offshore accounts, the same ones Klein used. It was a thread, thin but real, a chance to turn this trap against them. Back in her cell, Lena sank to the mattress, her ribs screaming, but her eyes alive, searching the vent where Marcus's note had come. She tapped the wall, hoping for a reply, and found a new scrap, not Marcus's hand, but a woman's, neat, precise. Evans's aide, "I recorded Klein's orders. Get this out." Lena's breath caught, her fingers trembling as she held the note, a key to unraveling Evans's lie, proof Klein owned her too. Klein thought he'd buried her legacy, but Lena was clawing back, ready to strike. Her fight now for Aisha, for Jamal, for every voice silenced by hate. If you believe no one should be betrayed by those promising justice, comment number 1 below. Hit like and subscribe to stand with Lena's unbreakable spirit. Have you ever seen trust twisted into a trap? Share your thoughts, because Lena's battle is ours too. What's on that aide's recording, and can Lena use it to shatter Klein's? Webb, keep watching to see her rise from the ashes. Lena Harris gripped the aide's note in her solitary cell. Its words, "I recorded Klein's orders," a pulse of hope against the jail's suffocating walls. Her tattered jumpsuit clung to her bruised body, blood crusted on her ribs, her face swollen from past attacks, but her eyes blazed with defiance. The Atlanta night pressed against her cell's barred window, the distant hum of protests barely audible, a reminder of a city torn by Captain Victor Klein's lies. She was the U.S. Attorney General, now branded a traitor for her black skin. Her legacy teetering under impeachment threats and fake coup charges. Senator Claire Evans's betrayal, orchestrated by Klein, had turned allies into enemies. But this, note, proof of Klein's grip on her, was Lena's weapon. Her brother Jamal's voice echoed, "Stay strong, Lena," pulling her back to their childhood dreams, shattered when police took him at 16. Now she fought for him, for her niece Aisha, for every life Klein's racism crushed. The note trembled in her fingers, its promise fragile but real, a recording that could expose Klein's orders to frame her, to threaten Aisha, to rig the system. Lena tucked it into her jumpsuit, her mind racing to get it out, to Maya Torres, whose exposé had shaken Klein's empire before he smeared her with drugs and bribes. She tapped the wall, hoping for Marcus's Morse code, but silence answered, her heart sinking. Then a guard's shout broke the quiet, "Move, Harris, now," and her cell door swung open. 2 feds in black suits stood there, badges glinting, their faces stern but respectful. "FBI," one said, his voice low, "you're coming with us." Lena's pulse surged, relief mixing with caution, Sarah's team finally breaking through. She stood, wincing as her ribs protested, and followed them to a van, its engine idling in the jail's shadow. The ride was silent, Atlanta's skyline, blurring past, until they reached a precinct. Not Klein's, but a federal outpost buzzing with agents. Inside, screens flashed Maya's latest broadcast, The aide's recording, Klein's voice clear. Evans, Berry, Harris, or your fundings. Gone. Lena's breath caught. The room erupting, agents cheering, Klein's empire cracking. Officer Carl Ramsey was cuffed in a corner, his face ashen, caught in a raid sparked by the recording. Lena's knees weakened, her eyes meeting Sarah Nguyen's. Across the room, her deputies nod, a promise of freedom. She was out, the truth aired, Klein's lies crumbling. Protests outside roared, Lena's name a rallying cry. Justice now, signs blocking streets. She imagined Aisha safe, her title restored, Klein in chains. Sarah gripped her arm, whispering, "We've got him, Lena. You're clear." Lena smiled, her first in days, believing she'd won, that the nightmare was over. She was wrong. The precincts. Lights flickered, then died, plunging the room into darkness. Shouts erupted, glass shattering as a blackout hit, orchestrated, precise. Ramsey, freed in the chaos, vanished into the night, his cuffs discarded, a shadow moving with purpose. Lena's heart pounded, agents scrambling, radios crackling with panic. Then a scream tore through the dark, Sarah's voice, and Lena ran toward it, her bruised body slowing her. She found Sarah in a hallway, blood pooling from a gunshot wound, her eyes wide, gasping. They took Aisha. Lena's world tilted, her niece's face, 17, laughing at her birthday, now a hostage. In Klein's grip, a note pinned to Sarah's jacket read, "Retract or she dies." Klein's handwriting unmistakable. Lena's knees hit the floor, her hands shaking as she pressed Sarah's wound, agents rushing to help. But the truth crushed her. Klein had planned this, turning her victory to ash. He appeared on a hacked precinct screen, his face calm, cruel, standing in a warehouse. Aisha bound behind him, her eyes terrified but defiant, like Lena's. "Speak, Harris," Klein said, his voice a blade. "Say you lied, the recording's fake, or she's gone." Lena's throat tightened, her mind screaming no, but Aisha's life hung in the balance. Agents urged her to wait, to strategize, but Klein's timer ticked, 10 minutes, then 0. Lena grabbed a radio, her voice steady, despite her heart breaking. "I'll do it, Klein, let her go." She recorded a confession. "My charges were false," I framed Klein, each word a betrayal of her fight, sent to Maya's network, lived to millions. The screen showed Aisha freed, Klein smirking, vanishing as Lena's words aired, her legacy torched, the city's protests, faltering. Some calling her a liar, others weeping for her sacrifice. Lena clutched Sarah, medics stabilizing her, believing Aisha was safe, that her confession was the end. Then gunfire erupted outside. Ramsey, rogue now, leading a vigilante squad, his loyalty to Klein snapped. He'd shot at Lena during Aisha's exchange, a stray bullet grazing her arm, leaving her bleeding on the precinct floor. Agents dragged her to cover, Ramsey's men firing wildly, their aim reckless, deadly. Lena's vision swam, blood soaking her jumpsuit, her body collapsing as shouts filled the air. "He's hit her, get a medic." She fought to stay conscious, her mind clinging to Aisha, to Sarah, to the confession's hidden truth. It was a decoy, laced with coded signals only Maya could decode, Klein's real crimes embedded, a desperate play sent before Ramsey's attack. Lena's eyes fluttered shut, her breath shallow, believing she'd failed, that Ramsey's bullet had ended her fight. But her heart kept beating, her will unbroken, and as medics worked, a faint pulse held, proof she wasn't done. Ramsey's betrayal of Klein, his rogue strike meant chaos, but also a crack in Klein's armor, one Lena could exploit if she survived. Lena Harris lay on a gurney in the federal precinct's medbay, her vision hazy, blood seeping from the graze on her arm where Officer Carl Ramsey's bullet had struck. Her tattered jumpsuit was soaked, her ribs screaming from past beatings, but her heart pounded with defiance, the coded decoy confession she'd sent to Maya Torres, her last play to save Aisha. The Atlanta night outside was chaos, sirens wailing, protests clashing with police after her broadcast branded her a liar. She was the U.S. Attorney General, reduced to a fugitive by Captain Victor Klein's racist vendetta, her black identity a target for his lies, from theft to coup charges. Sarah Nguyen, her deputy, stabilized nearby, her gunshot wound bandaged, whispered, "You're alive, Lena, we'll get Aisha." Lena's eyes burned, her niece's terrified face in Klein's warehouse video fueling her fight. Her brother Jamal's voice echoed, "Stay strong, Lena," pulling her from the edge. His death at 16 a fire that never dimmed. Medics worked fast, stitching her arm, but Lena's mind was on Ramsey, now rogue, his vigilante squad a wild card. Klein hadn't planned. The precinct buzzed, agents tracking Ramsey's trail, Maya's broadcast reigniting, her voice cutting through static. Lena's confession was a decoy, coded with Klein's crimes, bank accounts, bribes, murders. Lena's chest swelled, Maya decoding her signal. The city's protest surging anew. Free Lena. End Klein's reign. Signs lighting up Peachtree Street. The public's faith flickered back. Hashtags trending. Justice for Harris. Millions watching. As Maya aired Klein's offshore deals, linking him to Senator Claire Evans, Judge Raymond Tate a web of corruption. Lena pushed off the gurney, pain be damned, her eyes locking on an agent's radio. Marcus's voice crackling, "I'm out, Lena. Meet me underground. I know where Ramsey's got Aisha." Her pulse raced. Marcus, bloodied but alive, her ally from the jail, his janitor's key, her first escape. She slipped a knife from a medic's kit, tucking it into her jumpsuit and moved, her body protesting but her will ironclad. Agents tried to stop her. "You're hurt, Harris." But Lena waved them off, Sarah nodding. "Go, we'll cover." Lena hit. The streets, Atlanta's air thick with smoke, dogwood petals crushed under boots. Marcus waited in a storm drain, his face scarred, eyes fierce, a map scrawled on his arm. Ramsey's hideout, Old Mill, North Side. He'd tracked Ramsey's squad, ex-cops turned mercenaries, holding Aisha to bait Lena. They moved through tunnels, rats scurrying, water dripping, Lena's arm bleeding but her grip on the knife steady. Marcus whispered, "Klein's losing control, Ramsey's flipped, wants you both dead to cover his tracks." Lena nodded, her mind sharp, plotting each step. Aisha's safety her only goal. They reached the mill, its rusted beams groaning, moonlight spilling through broken roofs. Ramsey's men patrolled, their radios crackling. "She's coming, stay sharp." Lena and Marcus crept closer, her heart pounding, Aisha's voice faint. "I'm okay. Don't give up," echoing from a locked room. Lena's eyes welled, her niece's, courage mirroring her own, but time was slipping. They struck, Marcus disabling a guard, Lena slicing another's radio, silent, swift, her training from years facing cartels kicking in. They breached the room, Aisha bound but unharmed, her eyes lighting up. "Aunt Lena, you came." Lena cut her free, hugging her tight, relief flooding her, victory hers. Ramsey stepped from the shadows, his gun raised, face twisted with rage. "You're done, Harris." The room exploded into chaos. Lena shoving Aisha behind crates, Marcus tackling a guard, bullets flying. Lena faced Ramsey, her knife against his gun, dodging his shots, her arm screaming as she lunged, slashing his wrist, disarming him. He fell, cursing, "You'll pay," his blood pooling, her strength fading, but her will unbreakable. She tied him. Down, Aisha safe, Marcus panting. "We got her, Lena, let's go." She believed she'd won, Klein's pawn defeated, Aisha free, Maya's broadcast turning the city against him. Protests swelled outside, their chants shaking the mill's walls. Lena's name a beacon. She grabbed Ramsey's radio, calling Sarah. "We're clear, North Mill, send help." Her voice cracked, relief mixing with exhaustion, thinking the fight was hers, that Klein's end was near. She was wrong. Floodlights blazed, the mill's doors crashing open, Klein storming in with mercenaries, their rifles gleaming, faces masked, a private army funded by his bribes. His polished shoes clicked, his grin chilling. "You're predictable, Harris. Luring you here was easy." Lena's stomach dropped, her knife useless against their firepower, Aisha clutching her, Marcus, bleeding from a fresh cut. Klein laughed, his voice cold. "Ramsey was bait, you fell for it." He nodded, and his men doused the mill with gasoline, flames licking crates, smoke choking the air. Aisha screamed, trapped as fire spread, Lena's vision blurring, her lungs burning. Klein turned, leaving them to burn, his mercenaries barring the exits, their radios crackling. "Finish it." Lena's heart raced, her body failing, but her mind screamed for Aisha. She smashed a window, glass cutting her hands, and pushed Aisha through, Marcus lifting her, flames singeing their skin. Lena followed, collapsing outside, coughing. Aisha, safe but the mill in Inferno, Klein gone. His plan to silence her nearly complete. Protests roared nearby, unaware of the blaze, their chants fading as smoke rose. Lena's eyes fluttered, pain overwhelming, believing Klein had escaped, that her fight was lost. Then a glint caught her eye, a tracker on Klein's abandoned jeep, planted in the chaos, her last move before the fire. Her breath steadied, fury rising, knowing the FBI could trace it, that Klein's arrogance was her opening. The mill burned. Aisha clung to her. Marcus groaned alive, and Lena's resolve hardened. This wasn't the end, but a spark for her next strike. Atlanta burned under a haze of smoke, the night sky glowing orange as fires sparked by Captain Victor Klein's mercenaries tore through the city's edges. Lena Harris knelt beside Aisha, her niece trembling but unharmed, outside the smoldering ruins of Ramsey's mill. Her tattered jumpsuit was singed, blood oozing from her grazed arm, her ribs a map of pain from weeks of beatings, yet her eyes blazed with defiance. Marcus, bloodied and swaying, clutched his side, his sacrifice in the mill fight keeping Lena alive. She was the U.S. Attorney General, a title buried under Klein's racist lies, theft, riots, coups, all targeting her black identity to crush her power. The tracker she'd planted on Klein's jeep pulsed in her mind, a lifeline to his downfall. But Atlanta was unraveling, protests clashing with police, sirens screaming, dogwood petals crushed under boots. Her brother Jamal's voice whispered, "Stay strong, Lena," pulling her from despair, his death at 16, a fire that fueled her now. The mill's blaze was Klein's doing, his mercenaries framing her as a radical to justify the chaos. Lena stood, helping Aisha up, her gaze scanning the horizon where protesters gathered. Their signs bold, justice for Lena, unaware she'd survived. Marcus coughed, his voice rough. "FBI's got the tracker signal, Lena. Klein's heading downtown. We move, now or he's gone." Lena nodded, her mind sharp despite her body's protests, knowing Klein's plan was bigger, a strike to silence her forever. She led Aisha and Marcus through alleys, avoiding mercenary patrols, their rifles glinting under streetlights. Atlanta's streets were a battlefield, cars overturned, shops looted, protesters chanting her name, "Free Harris, end corruption," their voices a heartbeat against the chaos. Lena's heart pounded, guilt stabbing her, the city tearing itself apart because Klein had twisted her fight into a war. She found a payphone, its line crackling, and called Maya Torres, the journalist whose broadcasts had kept her alive. Maya answered, her voice urgent. "Lena, you're out. The world's watching. Klein's mercenaries are hitting protesters, blaming you." Lena's breath hitched, but she stayed calm. "Maya, I'm alive with Aisha. Broadcast this. Klein's downtown. I'm exposing him live. I've got his laptop, grabbed it in the mill, proof of his network, cops, judges, senators." Maya swore, typing fast. "I'm on it, Lena. Get to Centennial Park, I'll set up a feed." Lena hung up, her fingers trembling, the laptop's weight. In her stolen backpack, a ticking bomb. She'd snatched it from Klein's jeep in the mill's chaos, its files a map of his racist cabal, names, dates, payoffs, murders. They reached the park, its fountain dark, protesters circling, their phones raised, filming as Lena climbed a statue's base, Aisha and Marcus guarding her. Maya's crew arrived, cameras rolling, her voice booming. Lena Harris speaks, live, exposing Klein's crimes. Lena raised the laptop, her voice steady, cutting through the crowd's roar. "I'm Lena Harris, your Attorney General. Framed for theft, because I'm black, hunted by Victor Klein's hate. This laptop holds his truth, a network rigging justice, killing hope." She opened it, files flashing on Maya's screens, Klein's voice ordering hits, Evans's bribes, Tate's rulings, a conspiracy to keep power white, wealthy, untouchable. The crowd gasped, thousands streaming live, hashtags exploding. Lena lives, Klein exposed. Millions watching as Atlanta halted, cars stopped, screens everywhere showing her face. Lena's chest swelled, her pain fading, believing she'd won. Klein's empire naked before the world. FBI vans roared in, agents flooding the park, their radios confirming Klein's location tracked to a skyscraper nearby. Lena stepped down, handing the laptop to Maya, whispering, "Keep it safe, finish him." Agents escorted her toward Klein, Aisha clinging to her, Marcus limping but fierce. They breached the skyscraper, its marble halls silent. Klein's mercenaries fled, his plan crumbling under Lena's broadcast. She faced him in a penthouse, his suit pristine, his eyes cold but cornered, agents at her back. "You lose, Klein," she said, her voice steel. "Your network's done. The world knows." Klein laughed, bitter, raising a gun. "You think this ends me? You're nothing without your title, Harris, just another body." Before Lena could move, Marcus lunged, shoving her aside, the bullet meant for her tearing through his chest. He fell, blood pooling, his eyes meeting hers. "Keep going, Lena." A final gift from the man who'd risked all. Lena screamed, Aisha sobbing. Agents tackling Klein, his gun clattering, cuffs snapping on. She knelt by Marcus, his breath fading, her tears falling. "I'm sorry, I'll finish it." Klein was dragged away, his smirk gone. The laptop's evidence, sealing his fate, protests outside cheering, Lena's name a victory cry. She stood clutching Aisha, believing she'd triumphed. Klein cuffed, Marcus's sacrifice not in vain, the city hers again. She was wrong. A blast shook the city, the precinct miles away, erupting in flames. A bomb planted by Officer Ethan Holt, forgotten in the raid, now Klein's final pawn. News screens flashed. Breaking, Harris linked to precinct attack. Radical plot confirmed. Klein's frame-up alive. Holt freeing him in the chaos. Black SUVs speeding him away. Lena's stomach dropped, her victory stolen. Agents shouting, "She's a suspect again." Radios crackling with orders to hunt her. The crowd faltered. Some turning traitor, others pleading. It's a lie, but Klein's bomb had reignited doubt, her legacy ash once more. Aisha gripped her hand. "We'll fight, Aunt Lena," but Lena's eyes drifted to Marcus's body, his sacrifice mocked by Klein's escape. Then she saw it, Klein's laptop, dropped in the struggle, its screen cracked but alive, files intact, a map to his network's core, names she hadn't aired. Her breath steadied, fury rising, knowing she'd hunt him, bomb or no bomb, her fight far from over. Lena Harris stood in Atlanta's shattered streets, the acrid sting of smoke curling around her as the precinct's bombed ruins smoldered in the distance. Her tattered jumpsuit hung loose, blood crusted on her grazed arm, her ribs a lattice of pain from weeks of beatings, yet her eyes burned with unyielding fire. Aisha clung to her side, 17 and fierce, her niece's courage a mirror of Lena's own. Marcus's body lay behind them, his sacrifice in the skyscraper, taking a bullet meant for her, a wound that cut deeper than any blade. She was the U.S. Attorney General, a title smeared by Captain Victor Klein's racist lies, theft, riots, coups, bombs, all crafted to bury her black identity, to erase her power. The laptop she'd snatched from Klein's Jeep, dropped in his arrest, rested heavy in her backpack, its cracked screen hiding a network of corruption she'd only begun to unravel. Her brother Jamal's voice whispered, "Stay strong, Lena," pulling her from despair, his death at 16 a vow she'd kept through every battle. Now with Klein freed by Officer Ethan Holt's bomb, Atlanta teetered, protests faltering, some calling her a radical, others pleading her innocence, but the laptop was her last weapon, and she'd wield it to end this war. Lena moved fast, Aisha, matching her pace, slipping through alleys where mercenaries' fires still flickered, their chaos a mask for Klein's escape. The city was a maze, police barricades clashing with protesters, dogwood petals buried under ash. Lena's mind raced, decoding the laptop's files in stolen moments, names flashing, Judge Raymond Tate, Senator Claire Evans, cops, CEOs, a cabal rigging justice across states, their wealth built on silenced black lives. Her breath hitched, the scale dwarfing Klein's precinct, a machine she'd only scratched. Holt's bombing, framed as her doing, had made her a fugitive again, but the laptop's deeper files, encrypted, hinted at a meeting tonight, a secret summit to seize, power in the chaos. Lena's pulse surged, knowing she could expose them, end Klein's reign, But one wrong move meant death for her, for Aisha, for the truth. They reached a safe house, a crumbling loft Marcus had used, its walls papered with maps of Klein's deals. Lena powered the laptop, her bruised fingers trembling as she cracked the encryption, sweat beading on her brow. Aisha watched, whispering, "You can do this, Aunt Lena," her faith a spark in the dark. The screen lit up. Coordinates, a private club. Downtown, midnight. The Cabal's leaders gathering to crown Klein their enforcer. Lena's stomach twisted, the meeting hours away, her body failing, but her will ironclad. She hacked a signal to Maya Torres, feeding her the files, Maya's voice soon crackling on a radio. Breaking, Lena Harris exposes a national conspiracy, live now, names, dates, murders tied to Klein's escape. Atlanta froze, screens everywhere, showing Lena's evidence, crowds swelling, justice for Harris trending globally, millions chanting her name. Lena smiled, faint but fierce, believing she'd trapped Klein, expecting FBI backup, her name cleared. She was wrong. The safe house door splintered, mercenaries storming in, their rifles raised. Klein's orders clear, silence her. Now. Lena shoved. Aisha behind crates, grabbing a pipe, her arm screaming as she swung, cracking a gunman's jaw. Aisha threw a chair, buying time, their fight desperate but fierce. Lena's vision blurred, blood loss slowing her, but she felled two more, her knife from the mill slicing a third's arm. The last mercenary lunged, pinning her, his blade at her throat, Aisha screaming, "No!" When a shot rang out, the man collapsing, Holt standing in the doorway, his gun smoking, eyes wild, haunted. Lena froze, her breath ragged. Holt, the bomber. Klein's pawn, now her savior, his face a mask of guilt. "I'm done with him," Holt said, voice breaking. "I can't live with this, Harris." He dropped his gun, hands raised as Lena stood, wary but alive, Aisha rushing to her side. Holt's radio crackled, Klein's voice. "Holt, finish it, or you're dead." But Holt smashed it, his choice sealed. He pointed downtown. "They're at the club, Harris. Go now, I'll hold them off." Lena nodded, grabbing the laptop, pulling Aisha out, Holt's gunfire covering their escape as mercenaries closed in. They ran, Atlanta's streets a blur, reaching the club, a sleek fortress hidden. Behind velvet ropes, its guards oblivious to the storm coming. Lena slipped inside, Aisha at her back, the laptop live-streaming to Maya, her battery fading but enough to broadcast. The summit unfolded in a marble hall, Klein at the head, his suit crisp, Tate, Evans, a dozen others, their faces smug, planning. A coup to control court city's laws. Lena stepped forward, her voice booming. "You're done, Klein. The world sees you live, every crime, every name." Cameras whirred, Maya's feed hitting millions, the Cabal's faces paling, Klein's eyes widening, caught, no escape. Klein lunged, his gun drawn. "You'll never win, Harris," his shot wild, shattering glass. Lena dove, shielding Aisha, agents flooding in, the tracker's signal guiding them, cuffs snapping on Tate, Evans, the rest. But Klein fired again, aiming. For Lena. Holt appeared, shoving Klein, taking the bullet, his body crumpling, a final act to undo his sins. Klein roared, tackled by agents, his empire ash. But Lena saw the Cabal's leaders slip through chaos, their private jets waiting, a deeper network untouched. Her heart sank, victory bitter, Klein cuffed, but the snake's head alive, plotting, still. She broadcast one last file, Maya airing it. "The fight's not over, keep watching," naming the vanished, a call to hunt them. Back in Atlanta, Lena stood before a federal panel, her jumpsuit gone, a borrowed suit sharp, Aisha beside her, Sarah healed, Maya filming. The laptop's evidence had crushed Klein, Ramsey, their trials set, decades looming. But Lena's eyes were distant, the Cabal's escape a weight. She pushed the Carter Act, her dream from that first bookstore night, mandating body cameras, banning profiling, creating an agency to prosecute rogue cops. Congress roared approval, protests cheering, the act law in weeks, Atlanta's streets healing, dogwood petals blooming again. But Lena resigned, her voice steady. "I've fought here. Now I hunt the rest. The Cabal's shadow my new war." She walked out, Aisha's hand in hers, Maya's camera catching her silhouette. A warrior unbound, her legacy not a title but a vow, to chase justice beyond these walls. Atlanta rebuilt, Klein's name a curse, Ramsey's a footnote, Holt's sacrifice a quiet tale, but Lena's fight echoed, her resignation a shock, her hunt a mystery. The Cabal's leaders hid, their power fraying as her files spread, activists rising, the Carter Act a shield for the silenced. Lena vanished into the night, a burner phone buzzing, Maya's voice, "We're with you, wherever you go." A promise for tomorrow. Her steps faded, but her fire didn't. A black woman who'd turned hate into hope, her story not an end, but a beginning, the world waiting for her next strike. Lena Harris's journey through a storm of racial injustice teaches us that resilience can turn pain into power. Her fight against a system rigged by prejudice, from false theft charges to a bombed precinct, shows that truth, though buried, can rise when fueled by courage. Lena's identity as a black woman made her a target, yet she transformed every blow, planted evidence, courtroom betrayals, even her niece's kidnapping, into steps toward justice. The Carter Act, born from her struggle, proves one voice can reshape laws mandating accountability where corruption thrived. Marcus's sacrifice and Holt's redemption remind us that allies, even flawed ones, can shift tides, while Klein's cabal warns that hate hides in shadows, demanding vigilance. Lena's choice to resign, to hunt a deeper enemy, underscores that true justice isn't a title but a relentless pursuit, a lesson for anyone facing a world that tries to silence them. Her story isn't just about surviving racism, it's about rewriting the rules so no one else endures her pain. It challenges us to question who controls justice and to stand firm when systems fail. Lena didn't just win, she carved a path for others, proving that even in chaos, hope can build a legacy stronger than any lie. What would you do if you faced a lie that threatened everything you are? Drop number 1 in the comments if you believe justice starts with. Thus hit like and subscribe to keep this fight alive. Share Lena's story to inspire change, because together we can break the chains of prejudice. Thank you for joining this journey, and here's to a future where truth prevails. Stay strong, always.